This is Seymour Rocks reporting from down under. I just want to do a little bit more on the Siberian fires because they're just so unbelievably serious. And apart from everyone should be aware by now of the climate change aspect of this, but there's also the humanitarian and also uh, the animals. And I just wish to kind of concentrate a little bit on that today. So the Siberian Times alone, it seems, amongst the English language, at least media in Russia seems to be doing a really good job of covering all of this. So this is what they came up with today. Massive wildlife tragedy as bears and foxes flee the taiga while smaller animals suffocate and smoke. Predators seek food in villages all around Siberia as climate expert warns of worse fires each year due to soaring rise in temperature 10 degrees above average. And it's not only that, I don't think, that a lot of these fires are peat fires and they really need to be fought intensively on the ground. And I've seen pictures of this before because otherwise they die out and then they just come back again. That's my understanding of what happens with peat fires. So anyway, here goes a bit more. It's just tragic. Wild animals are turning to humans as they escape gas chamber-like woods, with wildfires continuing to rage across 3 million hectares. Even the Arctic is on fire, with smoke blanketing an area larger than the European Union, and a state of emergency, only just, declared in several large areas of Siberia. Well, I just saw um, scenes of Prime Minister Medvedev in Chita, and he wasn't filmed in a helicopter or a plane going over the fires. No, um, he was filmed inspecting a whole lot of equipment that was sitting on the ground, uh, presumably ready to go. So that wasn't very good PR. Anyway, a dire warning has been sounded about a major change in climate in Siberia. So I'll leave the links here. Maxim Yakovenko, head of Russian Federal Service on Hydrometeorology and Environment Monitoring, said the key issue was forest firefighting. So I would like to say that the situation will be worsening each year because of climate change. Temperatures in some Siberian regions had already exceeded average levels by 8 to 10 degrees centigrade, he said. It means that in the future we'll be facing lasting heat waves, drying soils, and so the temperatures will be rising, not exponentially, but at a significant pace, higher than on average across the world. Well, I think that it is exponential. Um, so here goes you poor old chap. All the animals. Yeah, it's tragic. So bears and foxes come to people to seek help. So I'll leave a link to this in the description box below. In the meantime, I mentioned the other day about a hashtag, Save Siberian Forests, and there was one other, uh, and I just got a comment uh, on my blog saying that these people have been blocked on Twitter. Well, I just had to check, and the latest thing that I can find is July the 27th, July the 28th, 26th, 27th. So that appears to be the case. And have people who are suffering from all of this suddenly lost interest, or have they been blocked? So that's the big question. Now, the final thing I want to just mention is this. I did something. I came across a video from Russia that talked about some of the issues around the corruption and the cover-up of this. So it was this one here. I found it quite difficult to pick up. I'm not very good with modern Russian accents. It's very, very hard to pick up very much at all. But I did pick up enough, and I went through some of the articles that he was talking about. So what it pointed out was that Medvedev has a 10% interest in this Europe's largest pulp and paper mill, and this is implicated in the burning of the forest. So he has not exactly kind of independent. So the group Elim is cutting down the burning Krasnoyarsk forest. The main part of the fires in the Krasnoyarsk region operates on the territory of Evenkia and the so-called control zone, where they are not extinguished, but with part of the Thoki are fighting there, including in areas where harvesting is carried out. Among the users of the district, there are giants of the industry, such as the group Elim, the creation of which is associated with the Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev. Yeah. And then here goes a bit of Russian propaganda. Dmitry Medvedev practically is a part owner, takes part in the launching ceremony for the Elim group in the new pulp mill. Yeah. Now, and then this was interesting. A court in Transbaikalia decided to deport a volunteer firefighter from Texas. He came from Texas to help extinguish the forest fires. Now the volunteer for 5 years is forbidden to visit Russia. Yeah, and they couldn't get an answer on this. He was awarded a fine, the source said, without specifying what exactly the volunteer was found guilty of. This is the second time that someone has come to Chita to experience of volunteer assistance in extinguishing wildfires and preventing fires. This year he came to Transbaikalia in May and planned to stay here until July, but he's been deported. And then there's this. We sit and watch as the forest burns. The pilot of the Ministry of Emergency Situations told me they never took off on fire. Sorry about the translation. It's machine translation. I didn't have time to go through. The pilot of the Ministry of Emergency Situations for Krasnoyarsk told that for all the time of the dangerous season in the north of Krasnoyarsk, they were never given the instruction to take off and suppress the fires, and that the planes have never taken off. Every day, I and the whole team just sit on duty. There are 4 aircraft. Since the beginning of the fires, no specialized equipment did not rise into the air. All around the lights and smoke, there was talk that they were about to fly, but there were no orders. They are cancelled, and no one knows by whom, in Moscow or in the region. So, and that's a picture from the article. And then in the meantime, there's this. The government will allow deforestation on Lake Baikal for BAM, that's the Baikal-Amur Railway, and the Trans-Siberian Railway. Environmentalists warn that it will destroy the ecosystem of the region. And then finally, this is sort of somewhat unrelated, but this is a behemoth survivor from Soviet times, an abandoned chemical plant that could trigger an environment disaster akin to Chernobyl. The chilling warning about the dangers of this abandoned plant was sounded by Svetlana Radionovna, head of State Environment Watchdog Rosprirodnadzor. This is essentially the territory of an environmental catastrophe. We need to act now, otherwise we will have an ecological Chernobyl, she said. Pictures here show the plant in Irkutsk region, which manufactured chlorine and other chemicals on a 600-acre site, began work in the Stalin era in 1933. Radionova warned that huge quantities of mercury and oil water could gush into the Angara River, which flows out of Lake Baikal. So there it is. So there's lots of issues coming up around this, and it's of interest, at least to me. So this is Seymour Rocks reporting from Down Under.